So with people here, I mean, we thought we'd talk about cloud-based editing as a topic today. Ludo, I think you probably did you find some
Yes.
framework of a presentation you actually want to talk about, maybe?
No. Yes. Actually, a few things. If you want to talk about it, yes, I do have few documents we can start from, and actually, I think for us, and I don't know, like Roger or Richie, if you have any experience with cloud editing, but we did some projects around cloud editing, and I thought it could be interesting to start from what we did and what were the challenges. So let me share my screen. And so, I mean, it's not, I'm just going to use like one project document we use for some of our customers, and like what are the steps we take, and like first, and what the challenges we found out. So like first, you have few options when you talk about like editing in the cloud, and it could be to use Workspace, but also it could be like to use Teradicci or NiceDV. So, and actually NiceDV is a tool most of people don't know, and it's a NiceDV, sorry, and it's an AWS product where it's a if you want an alternative to Teradicci, it can be an interesting alternative and something to look at. But I think today, the two main solutions you will find is going to be like Workspace or Teradicci in the market for the cloud editing.
I think you see nice DCV probably more in the animation and special effects areas. I think you see people are doing large scale rendering and they want a front end using. Those are the guys who'll probably use nice DCV a little more than the guys who are doing the streaming editing applications where it's Teradicci or PC over IP kind of protocol based.
So in the specific case of like our customers, so usually we like to start with Workspace because it's totally managed services by AWS, and also with the help of the AWS Workspace team, we put together a solution like using like custom drivers to make sure to get it working with Adobe Premiere, for example. And so that has been something we have been very strong at, where like to get working Workspace on the media customer, and some customer called us because they tried by themselves, and usually they figured out there are some challenges, how to build the image, the Windows image with a good driver and the good version of the software, how to manage the licenses, or how do you manage the storage. And so like, as you can see, and so that is like the deployment steps we take. It's going to be to set up Workspaces with Premiere compatibility, what is one of the first steps. The second step, it's like, how do you reproduce and automate? Because usually you are going to get like a few editors, and what type of storage you are going to use. So what we have been very successful with, it's FSX for Windows. So that same thing is native. But actually, I'm sure, Roger, I don't know if like you tested your solution in AWS, but we have been working with Cumulo also. So I don't know, Roger, about have you any experience on that?
I have a light experience. Our solution, which we provide, doesn't work in the cloud at all. So it's actually leveraging on-premise storage, sharing it out. So we actually do the opposite of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you have any facility for syncing to a cloud, or to allow those environments where your customers might want to burst up to the cloud?
No, not really. We leverage the Quick protocol, which Google has invented, or kind of leverage established. It's pretty quick, and we had some ties just being in the cloud using LucidLink, and they're doing a pretty good job, I think, as a file system. But that's kind of only cloud. But the challenge is cloud or no cloud, right? So we provide a solution, Scalers provides a solution which doesn't touch the cloud.
Yeah.
And Lucidlink and you guys doing the difference, but you're living on the cloud.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, but we actually have a lot of customers who want to do both. You know,
Yeah.
part of the solution is, okay, I've got my on-premise stuff. Maybe I'm doing my, you know, all my QA there, you know, frame perfect environments, but occasionally I have a bunch of jobs. I don't have enough. Maybe it's doesn't need all the same sort of super low latency. How do I build a hybrid environment for certain cases?
Absolutely, that's a fair approach. Yes.
Yes. So by default, and especially when it's proof of concept, because like there are definitely challenges to set up editing solution in the cloud, and so like FSX for Windows, it's kind of like easy way to do it. But if you already have, like, for example, StorNext or Cumulo, like the type of environment you see pretty often in any like post-production companies. So that is something like we have been working with also, and it has been definitely like working solutions. It has been working great. So this is like blueprint. It's really like FSX for Windows, like also permission management, because usually it's like, how do we integrate with your identity access management? Do you have Okta? And again, and you will see it later across this document, you are going to have to handle like the authentication. And Workspace is good, but like it's not that plug and play. For example, with Okta or Jump Cloud, and you will have to set up your Regis server or to use the Regis servers as a service. So it's some custom work to do it, to productize the solution. And as soon as it's done, you can automate, and we show you how to automate the deployment of the workspaces. And of course, like with any media application, like how do you manage like the troubleshooting of drop frames and quality issues? Because we need to remember Workspace originally was built not with graphical type of instances in mind, but more like to replace like your desktop with like office type of application, and like and the same, like they provide a lot of troubleshooting tools. So some are great, but there is like some other tools available to improve how to use and how to troubleshoot and how to make sure the quality is there, and also how, like, what type of metrics you can get from Workspace, or like you can set up to make sure like you don't drop any frames and you have good quality for your operators.
But are you going to touch on like other parts that seem to always be a problem, like other parts of the software suite that a particular customer wants to have on all their environments, whether it's antivirus or other management applications? Are you going to?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, so we definitely. I mean, like it's. Yes, we're going to touch a bit about it, because like that. Because yes, especially when you start, and we know it in the media world, when you want to protect your asset and your content. So it's sometimes you need to play around, and I think we talked about it in this document. But for example, how do you manage the network? Like, okay, I don't want my operator to be able to push anything outside of the network. How do I set up Workspace? What kind of trick I can do to protect myself? And also, I do that, but is it going to be compliant with my antivirus, for example, as Brad said? And so that is like things we can do and I think we're going to talk about it in this document. And feel free, like happy to share. Feel free to ask me if you want to. I can share this document. It's like it's not related to any customer. So so it's like, but yes, happy to share it with you if you want it later, just to go deep in it. But yes, like you have to play some tricks, like to limit access to your network, or in the opposite case, to allow access to your network for any licensing server. And we know like that type of application on the media side, or any application to protect your environment. they are going to potentially need access to the network. So we automated that type of feature where you can gain access to the network for a specific amount of time, just to allow the software to pull the license, and we turn off the network after. And everything we did was under TPN type of control, just to make sure it's fitting the TPN requirements.
Okay. So just kind of do a quick reset. Roger sent me a quick note. I think what we're really talking about here is what does it take to really do editing in the cloud, right? So what, from our experience, what are some of the challenges that we've had, and sort of what are the steps to actually go and do it, Roger? It's running applications that have been designed to work on your own local computer with some local fast storage. It's pretty easy. And then there's, for a long time, people have been trying to consolidate desktops and have just, little skinny machines on their desk, and you have all your data and all the processing in a virtual desktop or remote desktop environment. Have been around for a long time, and Workspaces at AWS was designed to do that. Just, remove all the processing and storage from my local machine, and I'm going to run it in the cloud, and it's going to look like my local machine, but actually everything's running remotely. It was the way Workspaces started. But then, people started to think, well, it would be cool to run some of these heavier applications up in the cloud as well. And the media guys, and Teradici was one of the early people who proposed the ability to do this, and they created their own protocol to be efficient, to take a screen and a real-time screen and be able to play it locally while everything's happening remotely. It's a hot topic right now because of COVID, where it's been harder for people to get in the office where they have their SAN or high-speed storage and their high-performance computers with GPUs in them and everything. So it's definitely seen sort of rapid adoption. And then there's some customers who, just the nature of their business, they just have remote editors. Like we have one customer, Pixelogic, that we have a case study around. They do a lot of localization, for example, and a lot of those people are really freelancers. So if you want to localize in Ecuador, you find somebody in Ecuador who knows how to do a translation, and they spin up their own remote system that can do that, which needs to be relatively real time. So it is sort of an editing application, although not doing any hard editing. But that person in Ecuador might not have a fast Mac with a GPU in it and fast storage. So they spin up a cloud-based instance to allow them to do that, where they have consolidated storage, consolidated instances that are set up with all the right security protocols that the company demands. So that's kind of as a background of what this is. AWS has a service called Workspaces, which is a managed service. So they have almost everything you need to just push a button and get this remote virtual desktop up and running. There's other ways to do it, like Ludo talked about. You can kind of build your own, roll your own, which you can tweak everything, but it's harder to manage. Teradici as a service is a way to do it, kind of pricey, but it works well. And then there's these other protocols like Nice DCV, which is sort of a competing way of doing high performance remote desktop. And as I mentioned, usually more used by the guys in the heavy graphical world, people doing rendering and animation and those kind of things. Does that help, Roger?
That does help. Do we talk on that solution you showing right now as it's a hybrid solution, or is it actually more just a cloud solution?
So this one is really both.
Both, okay.
So with that customer in particular, Pixelogic, we've already built another pipeline that helps them move content up and back from the cloud. So they have a heavy on-premise infrastructure. They are moving a bunch of workflows, again, a lot of it being pushed along by the pandemic, because to the cloud. But we already have capability there and how to move things up and back, and we've helped them automate some of that movement for archive purposes, as well as for this, where we have a certain type of content. Maybe there's a Sony Pictures movie, right, or something, and they can upload that, and then through permission say, okay, this person and that person can go get access to that content in the cloud, do the localization, for example, but not see Disney properties or whatever. And that's part of the identity and access management piece that Ludo talked about a little bit, right? So this one, yeah, they definitely have a hybrid workflow there. Ludo, you're on mute.
Sorry. And yes, so a lot of this solution, and today, I mean, how AWS is it, like you can build your own and you can put everything together. Like, for example, we did in this template we built, we decided to use Workspaces, and you have Teradata, you also have like a company like building it for you named Bebop Technology, where they've been pretty successful doing it. And so, like, for example, it's something published by AWS, how to use Teradata, and using AWS services, but Teradata running on an EC2 instance. And the same, you can do the same with a nice DVE, where you run it, and you are going to build your own nice DCV. Sorry, you are going to build your own, but you need to manage it. And so all these options are good based on what you want to do. Do you want it managed or not managed, and also what type of performance and requirement you have.
And just to be clear, when we say managed versus unmanaged, AWS has all these. It's a Chinese menu of every different piece, right? And you can pick and choose, but the problem there is you have to be the one to manage everything. Your operating system, make sure that all the pieces are safe and everything is together. But these managed services, they kind of bundle all that together and just reduce the actual sysadmin of the environment for you. So it's much more of a turnkey kind of a thing, and for relatively little extra cost, you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble and heartache and waking up at midnight on a Sunday to try and fix something that's broken. So most customers would rather use a managed service out of the cloud vendors if they can. But because of that, there's also some constraints. If we want to use a different version of firmware or software, or the protocols like the Teradata PC over IP protocol, you really don't have a lot that you can do there. So if you really want to tweak, you have to build it up yourself.
And usually what you're going to see, and like especially between like Workspaces, so yeah, we talked about some limitations, and I don't know if it has been fixed, but I know one easy limitation. Usually, if it's the first question we're going to ask to customers who want to edit in the cloud, do you need to use Wacom tablet? Is it need to use a Wacom tablet? So, and you can see it like in the brochure from Teradata, they already put it ahead because they did a lot of work on that. So it's why they are a great solution. If you want to do it, maybe Workspaces, what is the AWS managed product, turnkey solution, it's maybe not the solution for you. We didn't try lately, and I know like a team at AWS is working on that. But so that it's where you can see like the type of difference where like it's not necessarily easy to use with AWS Workspaces, and maybe it will need some work, or it will not work at all, and it's maybe where you need to go to Teradata or to figure out how you are going to integrate the tablet in your system.
Yeah, it's kind of not unlike what it was. I mean, if I think back 10 years, 15 years ago, when people were doing it on their own desktop. You know, what devices work with a piece of software and have the right drivers or don't. It's really a constantly moving sort of thing. I don't think it's quite as bad today, but it really is kind of like that. And that helps you choose how you do this in the cloud, just like you have to choose on your desktop, you know, operating system, drivers, versions, particular dips. Still have to pay attention to some of the same things. And I think the goal is just to try and minimize the effort as much as possible. It's the Einstein quote that wasn't from Einstein: make everything as simple as possible, but no more so.
So, and based on the technology you will pick, like for like the virtual desktop, and it's what is great with AWS, like every services, like for example, you can see here in this GitHub repository, they built it on the top of Teradata, but we built exactly the same thing on the top of Workspaces, but everything else, like all the networking, even the file system in this case, where like it's a FSX for Windows, but could have been Cumulo or StoreNext, they are the same. And so, and same on the directory service. So you can really like maybe have few solutions, because maybe you have like a high performance editors who need to use Teradata, and some other, like they are not using the system as much, but they still need Premiere to do review or to do some type of localization, for example. And maybe they don't need Teradata, and they don't need to have a Teradata license or Teradata client. And even maybe it's easier for them to deal with Workspaces, because it's less effort and easier to handle.
Yeah, it's kind of actually not unlike an on-premise environment, right? So you're going to build a SAN or an AS kind of environment, and you need an aggregate amount of performance from your file system for all the users with that on that particular file system. Then you're going to have high performance users who need, you know, real time 2K or 4K at a fairly high or a fairly low compression. And then you're going to have some users, maybe they're just project management people or data wranglers or whatever, that just need to be able to access the environment, but maybe not the high performance. So it's really kind of like exactly the same as on-premise. Let's understand the environment, who needs what. We don't want to throw a huge workstation with a huge GPO at every user, because you're just throwing away money, just like you would in an on-prem environment. And I still have to worry about what the storage performs like, and I have the right capacity I need. And if I want to tier it, what do I do? So kind of the same thing.
Just a few things. I don't want to go in details for, I mean, like for everything we need to set up. But so, well, first you need to understand when we deploy, and again, like feel free to ask us for this document. Happy to share it. So it's like so like for example, like how you set up Workspaces and what you need to understand. First, graphical GPU Workspaces. So you don't have unlimited resources in every region. So you need to understand that, and you need to look at that, and potentially also you need to ask to update and upgrade your AWS services and AWS quota. What is an easy way? It's very easy, but it takes time. So you need to think of it. And same on the region you are going to use them, because not all the regions, they have all the GPU. And we realized, for example, we had this customer in actually it was in Frankfurt. No, actually it was in London, and we didn't have like the GPU in London, but we had them in Frankfurt and in Dublin. So that it's something you need to keep in mind. And also like the networking, how you connect. Do you use a direct connect link if you have an interface, or do you use like a NAT gateway, and how you to put it together? And so usually you want to use Terraform or CloudFormation to deploy, to make sure you automate, and especially when you need to reproduce the environment, or you want to tear down and set up again the environment. So
Yeah, it's what that is one of the differences between an on-premise environment, right? It's hey, I want to create a computer. So, you know, on-prem, you go out, you buy one, it ships. In the cloud, you have to create one. And using these automation tools like Terraform or CloudFormation, and doing it the right way is really kind of essential. Say, okay, I want to stand up a new computer for a new user, or user who shut down yesterday and is ready to start a new session today. This idea of automating the creation of your environment, really important. And obviously it gets more important the bigger you get, more and more people.
Yeah. I mean, the advantage of if you're on premise, you go out, you have a budget, you spend 10K on a computer, whatever, and then you're done. Right? The license fee, sure. But with Amazon, of course, the challenge is choosing the right infrastructure, CloudFront, and what not of infrastructure to choose can have a big impact. What kind of storage you choose? They have kind of, I think, 7 layers of storage, or 5, no 7. 3 S3, and so it's a challenge to figure out the right spot. So who's helping with that right configuration so it gets most affordable for the customer in the end? Would it be you guys?
So yeah, that is, so somebody, our specialty is helping customers do that, and track it. And there's, you know, a bunch of, I mean, AWS has a lot of partners like Trackit that help customers do that. The thing about Trackit, we do a lot in the media and entertainment business. So we do a lot of video related kind of work. So we're really good with that. But I mean, there's also, you know, depending on the customer, especially if you go to like the really big customers, like the studios, they have they do work with some people like us in certain really key focus areas where they don't have expertise, but they typically have more expertise. Plus they also get more resources thrown at them from AWS themselves. So a company like Disney, for example, will have a good size AWS team with dedicated solution architects that can help along those lines. And they also have bigger, you know, in-company teams, but yeah, we're trying to fill in the cracks where there aren't enough AWS people for these big, huge clients, or there's really specific areas that we're really good at that even AWS themselves doesn't have available resources, or the customer doesn't have available resources. But you hit it right on the head, Roger. You really do need to know what you're doing so you don't get hosed from a cost standpoint, and make sure that you're using it the right way. Also from a security standpoint. Yeah, they're really important. Absolutely. Really important.
Yes, and so I don't know, Roger, do you have any question on like on the AWS side or like anything on this solution?
Not really, because I am doing parallel my certification for AWS.
Oh,
just
great.
Because I got actually all the stuff in, and it's a lot to take in for sure. So I'm a couple of weeks away from my certificate exam for sure. So not right now. I have seen the Teradata workflow. I've seen the LucidLink workflow, and I set up a couple of studios, not touching anything, using Teradata in combination with other software to make it on-premise or the RDS, right? So, and especially it depends also on the company how much you can share out. So a question I would have in that regard, and can you maybe zoom it a bit up, Lulu? Is this possible?
Yep.
You have a tiny monitor. Now you mean, okay. Thank you. So how would I connect with my workstation? How would I connect to my VPC in the end? I have my VPC there, everything kind of sorted out. I have my workspaces there, using NAT gateway, using load balancer, have the right location, my compute power, everything is set up in the best possible way. How do I access it as the editor, so to speak?
So, I mean, like you need the workspace client. Okay. And like it's how it works. Like you have this Workspaces client, and you will connect to it. Now, how do you manage the authentication? And like for example, here we use Microsoft AD, and it's the AD service for the authentication. And now, like, do you want to add multi-factor authentication? Or we have seen people like wanted to have like a kind of like more protections. So there is a lot of a lot of possible way, but by default, you use a workspace client and to connect to Amazon Workspaces.
This is the same like the video client from Teradici, the same way in the end. It's a lightweight client, which I install on my, okay.
Yes.
And performance and with wacom support and audio support, it's doable. It's not kind of lagging too much.
What do you mean? Like, say it again?
If you, I mean, one of the main issues is that you have audio and the wacom and the mouse and the graphic in sync. I've seen on the slides before, it supports audio, it supports wacom. So if I throw everything in, is this still a kind of a workable solution, or is this kind of lagging in the end? Do we have a
no, actually, like there are a few concerns. If you have like a 4K monitor, it's not good. It can be a challenge. Mm-hmm. So, but like after, of course, it's going to depend of your internet connections. And so actually something like on the lagging, I don't know if we show it here. So you have few tools, and okay, this one. So if we connect, so this is my internet connection, and like you see, I think you need to get below 30, below 60 to be good. So here it's where, like, from each workspace endpoint, where I will get the best performance. So I'm based in Los Angeles, so like the best performance from my internet connection, what is not the best, but to be like to join and to reach a workspace hosted in Oregon.
Yeah, so the easy way, if it works for you, is Workspaces, because it's a kind of a prepackaged solution. But Workspaces does lag behind updates and other things that you get if you were to just roll your own. So we mentioned like Wacom tablets. Several months ago, the Workspaces environment didn't support it. Actually, not even sure if it supports it today. So if that was important, then you needed to go to either like the Teradici managed environment, which, you know, they'll basically do that as a service, or you have to build it in AWS yourself and not use the Workspaces. Like I said, the good thing about Workspaces is it's basically very turnkey. You just don't have to worry about the day-to-day management and stuff. And it's very reasonably priced. If you want the fully managed and you don't care about the price, you go get it from Teradici as a service, which is great, works great, but it is expensive. Or you roll your own, which kind of lands you in the middle, probably, but it's work because you got to actually build the thing.
Okay.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do have a question for you, Roger. Sorry. Just a separate one before I forget. You're looking to get your cloud certifications. Are you using Cloud Guru there?
I use Cloud Guru, yes.
Okay. Yeah, just want to make sure. By far the easy way. Just keep taking the tests over and over before you take the official one, and you'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I think the one I did had 138 sessions or sections in the end. And there are probably 100 new products and tools, and you name it. It's a lot of work, that's for sure. And it's, if you're not taking the time to really do it, you have forgotten the first beginning. So it's really, really complex. But I think that's not bad. Do you have a different resource, a better alternative,
no.
to Cloud Guru? No.
No, we use Cloud Guru, so I don't know. Like we have something like 20 certifications, I think, like across the team. Actually, and so yes, we use Cloud Guru a lot.
Yeah, I got this a recommendation from a couple of AWS guys as well, from a couple of solution architects. This is actually one of the main sources that they threw out. Look it up, Cloud Guru, and I mean The challenge I had was that the course was done probably 2 years ago. So some sections weren't up to date. So you had to pause the load, actually find the right section, go from there. It was a bit of a drag in the end. But the information is pretty good you get from there, that's for sure.
Probably the best source that we know of.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I was done. So Ludo, a quick question to the slide you just showed me for the Studio AWS Health Check. That's a public page, right?
Yeah.
Because
yes, it's a public page.
Yeah. The main challenge I see is that, sorry. The main challenge I see is, you first.
I'm going to share it with you on the chat so that you can check if you can use Workspace from your place.
Yes, please. The main challenge we came across is that people, of course, they're working over internet now and they don't seem to realize it, right? Oh, there's a solution. I can see finally my content again, and I work as always. And we have to educate them and tell them actually, yeah, you have actually many ways, many hops in between. And it, depending on your internet connection, depending on the internet connection, if you're on-premise, on the on-premise, and suddenly you share that link with many others. So I've seen uploads, downloads failing, installing, and troubleshooting it, and it was always pointed back to the end user. So that page would help to see actually, okay, what is the closest one? What is my internet line, right? Because if I have acceptable or a bad internet connection, it won't help me with a satisfied environment in the end.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Hopefully it just gets better over time.
Even Asia Pacific is good for me. Why not?
Oh yeah, what does it say?
It says good. Asia Pacific is good.
Can you show us actually? Because like, can you share your screen? I'm curious to see like, because Brad is always complaining about how my internet connection is bad, but maybe now I'm going to get the proof.
Sales guys, there you go.
Whoa, 28, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, I'm not at home. I'm at the company, and I get 1 gig up and down. So yeah, it's not a cheap one, but
yeah, but even so, it's the latency though that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, even if your internet is fast, it doesn't affect the latency that much.
No, I mean, we are surrounded by charter infrastructure here. So we actually can probably throw just a line over and that's it. They didn't do it, they actually went professionally, but it's actually how close we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's half of what I'm getting. So my round trip latency is 56.
But you have a home line, right?
It is home. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I assume that you did it. So what is acceptable, what is not acceptable? According to that Amazon sheet, actually 94?
Yeah, but it has to, like, it has to be below 60. I try to find actually the numbers
below 60.
Again. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's really, it is kind of subjective, and things change, right? Depends on the resolution you're displaying and the frame rate. So there's definitely variables there. So we had one customer, actually same one, that kept getting dropped frames and couldn't figure out why. And it turns out he had a 4K, he was trying to run in 4K because he had a 4K monitor. And even though it was a 1080p stream, it was moving in 4K. So all we had to do was turn down the resolution, and all of a sudden it wasn't dropping any frames anymore. So there, you do have to be a little careful. Absolutely,
and that's what I mean. Actually, people don't realize that they're working now in a different environment, because just because it's working doesn't mean it's the same performance, right? So infrastructure underneath it's a completely different one.
Yeah. So our recommendation is it's not, or it has been, you know, there's certain workflows that it's going to be great for, certain workflows that it's very acceptable for, and then certain where you really gotta you gotta dig in to see if it works or not. One of the interesting things, though, at least from a workflow perspective, maybe not from a cloud editing, but AWS just announced that they can do uncompressed 4K in the cloud, with inside the cloud. So they have certain environments that at least the networking has that capability to do it. So you could potentially do like a DI workflow in cloud, which is, we haven't done it yet, but in theory it's interesting.
It's for sure, it's a lot of data you have to push if you do 4K.
Yeah, it's uncompressed, yeah. All right. Is there, Ludo, do you have anything else you want to add there?
Just funny. I was trying to find a deck, and just the deck showed up in my inbox like 2 minutes ago. But so for next time, so Brad, when Brad told me we will talk about this topic yesterday, I said, oh, maybe I need to find a deck, and I asked a few people about a deck, and so now I have one. But I think next time we'll be more prepared for this conversation.
Yeah. So obviously a really small little crew this time. I think next month probably not do one since it fell right on Thanksgiving. And then I'm not sure about the month after. We'll have to figure out the next time we do one. But as long as we have you on the line, is there anything in particular you think we should talk about? I mean, other things we're thinking about is video on demand or over the top. Or
what did you talk about last time? I missed it for some reason.
AWS cost, like cost management on AWS.
This is actually the main idea where you come from, right? To compare pricing, GCP, AWS, and Azure.
No, how to optimize your cost in AWS, what you need to be careful about, and so like how to make sure you pick like the good type of instances or good type of resources for a specific workflow, just to make sure you optimize the cost, and you make sure you look at the metrics when you use resources. Make sure how to use the AWS Cost Explorer. How do you use AWS budget? What you need to set to get notifications, and also what can you do if you went over budget or you made a mistake? What are the options? And also, yes, it's what we talked last time.
Okay, so Track It is actually Track IT or Track IT or Track It?
Track It.
Track It. Track It is more focused now on AWS, so you don't really compare anymore against GCP and.
No, it was really just too much.
Okay.
You know, we found that there was more than enough for us to do with AWS specific, and it's also, you know, even just keeping up with one cloud,
I mean, it's a big cloud,
really being an expert versus, you know, 3, which we really want to do if you want to try and do them all. It's just didn't make sense for us. We got more than enough work.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, and right now we have been like really focusing on like on some media technology of like, for example, any AI ML pipeline in AWS, like video type of AI ML pipeline. We have been very engaged with the AWS team, but also with customer on that. So that's something we did a lot. We also do a lot on the Chime SDK, what is kind of interesting product. It's like WebRTC as a service. So and so that's the same, and maybe it's something we can talk about maybe next time, like we do that type of conversation.
Yeah, that's interesting. It lets you build your own sort of custom Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting. So it has all those components that you can plug into your own environment to really personalize that kind of interactive communication experience. It's a cool, cool set of tools.
It's AWS based?
Yeah, so AWS has their own Zoom wannabe called Chime.
Oh, right, yes.
But it actually uses all these other little services underneath. So they've called the services underneath the Chime SDK.
Gotcha.
One of the things that AWS isn't that great at is really, you know, friendly, pretty user interfaces. And if you use Chime, you know what I'm talking about. But we have a lot of customers who want, there are a lot of people out there who say, hey, I want my JCPenney interactive experience, right? And I want to have my branding and I want to have it the exact features that I want. And so this lets you build those all into your own experience very easily. All right. I think this is probably a good time to call it a meeting. So if you do think of anything that maybe it'd be real interest to talk about the next time, we'll definitely
We'll drop you
reach
lines.
out when we figure out when the next one's going to be. But appreciate the attendance. And if there's anything we can help you with along your AWS journey, just let us know. We're happy to.
I will let you know for sure.
Questions.
That's for sure.
All right. Great. Well, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.